Bonjour, Kinamage Nene Ireland Indigenicas, and welcome to this production of the Social Studies Network. Today's episode, Social Studies Chapter 2, Section 5, The Kingdom of Mali. To set the tone of where we are at in the world, again, we have Turtle Island over here, South America, Europe, and Africa. You can see on Africa, the delineation between the savanna and tropical rainforest and the Saharan desert to the north. We're focusing in on this region, West Africa. Remember, we have West Africa, North Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, and Southern Africa. Yes, you will be expected to put those regions on a map and during a quiz, just like we did with the tribal regions of Turtle Island. The Kingdom of Mali. Our inquiry questions include: how did the location of the three empires impact the cultural and economic development of each? And what led to Mali's growth and demise as an empire? We will also talk about the culture of Mali and about the great leader, Mansa Musa I. The vocabulary here is pilgrimage, which is a journey to a sacred place. So why do we remember Mali? And not just because it is a current country on the map in Africa. That's the question I want you to think about as we're going here. So as Ghana fell, a new empire, Mali, came to power. Mali rose as a powerful empire around the year 1200. It began as a small city-state of Ghana, but when Mali's leader, Sundiata, led a rebellion against Ghana, they took over the territory and power that was once Ghana's. Once Mali, under Sundiata's rule, came into power, they acquired even more land and took over the gold and salt trade that Ghana once controlled. Trading was expanded to include Egypt. This helped increase Mali's wealth, and this wealth helped them strengthen their army. Look at the map below to see how Ghana and Mali together became the single empire of Mali. Let's go ahead and do that on the map. You can see originally Ghana was down in here, while Mali stretches further out, so it goes beyond Timbuktu and down towards Shanghai, and then does come all the way back to the Atlantic coast. It's still at the center of trade routes, right through here. That would take you to Europe, out towards North Africa, Tunisia, down here to the coast, Gold Coast or the Slave Coast, and then from there, you could travel in any number of directions. The most famous ruler of Mali was Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was a strong ruler who used Mali's money wisely-ish. He built up the army, but also built up the empire. The popular city, Timbuktu, was enhanced and became a place to learn. People would come to study medicine, astronomy, or mathematics. He also adopted Islam and went on a pilgrimage to the city of Mecca in southwestern Asia. A pilgrimage is a journey to a sacred place. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage brought a lot of attention and trade money to Mali. We see the vocabulary word pilgrimage, and that pilgrimage to Mecca is something that is still an important part of Islamic life today. The expectation is for a Muslim to at least make one pilgrimage or Hajj to Mecca. And when they say southwestern Asia, it's more specific to say that it's in the modern country of Saudi Arabia. I hear it's an amazing thing. I have a few colleagues from the past that have made the Hajj, and from everything they say, it's pretty impressive. Continuing on. After Mansa Musa died, Mali struggled. Weaker rulers came into power, and the empire began to decline in the year 1400. This presented the opportunity for smaller kingdoms to attack and rebel, thus weakening the empire further. Eventually, Mali lost control of the trade routes and fell out of power. All right, so let's look at a few of the things about Mali beyond the text. These are shared within your Google Classroom, and I would like you to look at them in detail before answering the questions. So looking at the culture of Mali, here's the empire here. See, it's a pretty decent sized place. Gives you the years. Was in power for about 150 years, 170 years, and was gone in under 400 years. Um, Looking at the culture, most of these were groups considered the Mande peoples, spoke similar languages and had similar cultures. Yeah, keep in mind, Africa and even to an extent Europe at this time was a tribally based society. Here's this kingdom or nation or tribe, and then here's this one, and then here's this one. No different than looking at the nations of North America. We don't think so much about that because we try to break down as tribes when we're talking about North America, but that was tribes and small kingdoms in Africa and Europe as well, for the most part. There were some very large empires that it kind of usurped those kingdoms. The people were divided into castes. One of the most respected castes were the farmers because they provided food. Pretty important thing. Just below the farmers were the artisans. Other groups included fishermen, scribes, civil servants, soldiers, and slaves. Islam was a major part of the empire. However, they did not force their subjects to convert. Many people practiced a version of Islam that combined Islamic beliefs with local traditions. Mansa Musa, seen here, was the most famous, and he was like super rich, like super rich, like beyond Amazon company wealth. It was taught, and I'll talk about him a little bit more here in a moment. Some historians estimate Mansa Musa was the wealthiest person in history. The great wealth came from gold and salt again. We didn't suddenly invent refrigerators in the 14th century. We needed salt. They had lots of gold. I have gold, you have salt, let's trade. The capital of the empire is Niani. Other important cities included Timbuktu, Gao, Jena, and Walata. Apologize if the pronunciations are just off. The Mali Empire controlled important trade routes across the Sahara Desert to Europe and the Middle East. And the city of Timbuktu was considered a center of education and learning, include the famous Senghor University. A little bit more about Mansa Musa. You can see an artist depiction of Timbuktu from an 1858 painting. It was famous for its schools and libraries. It was a place of learning, probably dwarfing that of any other city in Europe, Asia, or Africa at that time. He was the ruler from 1312 to 1337, so for 25 years. At this point, the kingdom included modern-day Mali, Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso. So it's a pretty big place. Today it would be home to hundreds of millions of people. Mansa Musa developed cities like Timbuktu into important cultural centers. He came to power after the previous king went to go explore the Atlantic Ocean and didn't come back. When he went on this famous Hajj to Mecca in 1324, he brought so much gold that it actually brought down the value of gold in Egypt for the next dozen years. They were believed to be carrying multiple tons of gold. A ton is 2,000 pounds. And it created quite the stir, and people became like, wow, this guy's rich. After his return, he did a lot to build up the culture, like academics, um, education, brought in scholars from around the world. And unfortunately, though, once he passed away in 1337, his sons were not as competent as he was. So we find that the kingdom of Mali was a descendant of Ghana. There's going to be one more in this series of episodes that'll be produced a little bit later today, and be in your Google Classroom here on Sunday morning. Um, if there's anything you want further information about, don't hesitate to ask during our live stream office hours or email me at mireland@sagchipschool.net. Hope you all have a minute. Mama P.